Unfortunately, four of the largest companies in the United States, firms that sell directly to consumers, are all sounding the alarm at the same time. These companies are what I call the Wham Four: Walmart, Amazon, Apple, and Mattel. They're all sounding the alarm, and in today's video, I want to share with you what they're sounding the alarm about and what we should all do about it. Okay, this article comes from Politico, and it's titled "Trump Turns the Screws on Big Companies Amid Tariff Fight." So let's start off with Apple. This is a quote from Donald Trump. "I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their iPhones will be sold in the United States of America, will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that's not the case, a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the United States." Now, this came as a surprise to a lot of people because Apple got an exemption from the China tariffs in Trump's first term. But this idea, if you're going to sell products in a country, they have to be manufactured in the country, is not new. If my memory is correct, India did the same thing to Apple about a decade ago and said, if you want to sell iPhones in India, which is a very large country, I believe it's the most populated country on earth right now, they told Apple, you have to start manufacturing some of your products there. And over time, Apple did do that. Now, there's a big difference between moving production from China to India. There's a big difference between that and moving production from China or India to the United States. Obviously, labor costs are quite a bit higher. Okay, let's keep going with this Political article, and let's now talk about Amazon. Trump spoke with Amazon founder Jim Bezos following the announcement, and the announcement was that there were rumors that Amazon was going to start indicating the price increases on their website that were due to tariffs. And President Trump spoke to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos following that, and Trump said that Bezos solved the problem very quickly. And an Amazon spokesman acknowledged at the time the idea was considered to be for one of Amazon's sites, but it said the plan was never approved and is not going to happen. So sometimes news stories leak because people want to create an issue or they have other incentives, and that may be why that story about Amazon in indicating the tariff increases, why that story leaked to the media. We may never know. Okay, next let's talk about the M in Wham, W-A-A-M, and that's Mattel. Going back to the Political story, toy manufacturer Mattel announced this month that prices of some of its toys in the U.S. would go up, and also expressed disinterest in moving manufacturing to the United States, prioritizing global diversification. Now, you know President Trump's not going to like that either, and here's what he said. Let him, the CEO of Mattel, let him go, and we'll put 100% tariff on his toys, and he won't sell one toy in the United States, and that's their biggest market, President Trump said. Okay, so what's the W in Wham? The W is Walmart, and let's talk about Walmart here, and then I'll get to what does this mean to you and I, and why do we need to be aware of this alarm that's being sounded by these four big companies. Okay, the W, going back to the Political story. Walmart, this is President Trump's quote after Walmart announced that they were going to raise prices because of the tariffs. President Trump said, Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as a reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected, Trump wrote in a Truth Social post on May 17th. Between Walmart and China, they should, as they say, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. And the whole world, frankly, is watching this and these other battles now. So what does this mean for us? Now, as I record this, the stock market has gone from the dip when Trump first announced the tariffs, Liberation Day, April 2nd, 2025. The market fell. And as I record this, the market has made up most of those losses. So does it mean that we're out of the danger zone, that we don't need to be worried anymore? I do not think that's the case. I still think, and there's some other really smart people, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase, the country's largest bank, recently said that, he feels that there's a lot of risk that, and I'm paraphrasing here, there's a lot of risk still in the market that people aren't pricing in, and that's what it feels like to me. It feels like the market is priced close to perfection, and there's times where it's easier for perfection to be delivered, and there's times when it's harder for perfection to be delivered. And boy, this feels like one of the times that's harder. Now, it doesn't mean that the stock market is not going to do well. It could very well have a very strong year. Now, historically, when the stock market starts off the year as down as we were, I think like in the last 8 times, the last 10 times, the majority of the time, the vast majority of the time, the stock market finishes down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen this time, but it is difficult to do that. Now, one of the challenges we as a country face is, Jerome Powell in the Federal Open Markets Committee has been trying to get inflation down. And the latest print, the latest data on inflation, as I record this, has shown that inflation has come down very nicely. But we may be experiencing headwinds on keeping inflation down. In fact, consumer sentiment, the University of Michigan records this, consumer sentiment is at our second lowest level since it's been recorded, I believe, going back to like 1978. And one of the reasons that consumer sentiment is low is just the feeling like inflation is going to come back. We just started to dampen out inflation, and clearly with raw material prices increasing through these tariffs, companies are going to face more of a challenge. Now, that doesn't mean they won't eat it. As President Trump said in his message to Walmart, telling them to, as they say, eat the tariffs. That would be a good thing for consumers. It would mean, though, that profit margins are going to go down at Walmart. So what does this mean to you and I? What I think it means to you and I is it shows once again just how complicated it is to try to time the market, and most people will never succeed at timing the market. And as a retired financial advisor, one of the things I used to share adamantly with my clients is it's not timing the market, but it's time in the market that allows you to succeed. I think that when you time the market, you have a strong likelihood of ending up worse off versus better off. But when we stay in the market, the time in the market, history has shown that companies are continuing to do things better, faster, cheaper. There is a tailwind, I think, coming. There is a headwind, obviously, with the tariffs, but there's also a tailwind with AI. And will AI allow all of us to do more with less resources? It might. I think it will. Now, I should say that past performance is no guarantee of future performance, but I do think that staying the course, it's not financial advice, but for many of us, that's the easier path to succeeding in the stock market. If you like this video, the YouTube algorithm says this is the next video specifically for you that you should watch next of mine. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.